Okay, so first of all, thank you everybody for joining us. My name is Deborah Korn. I am Girls Who Run at Girls Who Print. I don't know what the configuration of your screen is, but to my
Other way.
left,
Yeah.
but really right on the screen. Oh, wait, I don't know who I'm pointing at. I think I'm pointing at Kelly Malazzi. Too. And then Pat McGrew is on this side on my screen. She's presenting today, but somewhere in these boxes, maybe Kelly and Pat could just wave so everyone knows. There they are. Kelly is Girls Who number 2 at Girls Who Print, and Pat is a Girly Award winner. She's actually presenting today. But before we get to that, I wanted to just do some quick kind of info about Girls Who Print, because I've actually never had an opportunity to do this before. And when I say a little info, I mean very, very quickly. So girlswhoprint.net is our website, and we actually have a new logo. We made it a little more fierce and empowering. So when all of this is all over, we will reopen our Girls Who Print store for anybody who wants a logo refreshment, and anybody who has items, including me. I have about 600 Girls Who Print buttons behind me. Consider them collector's items, and while we still hand them out, you will have something that no one else will have, probably starting next year. So Christine Alexander designed this for us, longtime friend of the Printiverse, also trying to walk the walk and use all women's service providers for this organization. So something else we're looking for now is the store, someone to help us with the storefront. So anybody out there who might have some ideas, please let me know. I will get to Fierce Fabulous Fridays in a second, but in case anybody missed it, March was officially Women's Print Herstory Month, a holiday created by Girls Who Print to celebrate fierce, fabulous women in the industry that coincides with Print History Month. And the reason why we decided to call it Print Herstory Month is so that we could use March to tell the stories of the women in the industry who are crushing it, who are killing it, who are doing amazing things, running companies, inventing technology, and kind of move a little further away from the, look at the women in the industry, they do things just like the men do, and really tell the stories of the women who are leading teams of men and don't need the validation the other way. So we had some participation, definitely more than last year, definitely could be better, but wanted to play this quick video for you because it is a recap. Please, God, work. Don't do this to me. Okay, maybe instead everyone could just go to girlswhoprint.net and you can watch it yourself. I'm not going to waste time. On the Girls Who Print site, there's also 38 Q&As with all of the women who participated in Print Herstory Month with us. Great information and advice in these posts. If you have some time, you might want to click over and check it out. Kelly and I host the Girls Who Print podcast. We have a great library of conversations. We just started to dedicate them with Kelly and I hosting, but prior to that, all the interviews that I've done over the years with women in the industry are listed there too, for your listening pleasure. Following this Friday, we have scheduled all of May for our Fierce Fabulous Friday meetups on Zoom. Again, on the website, girlswhoprint.net, everything is listed there. It's an individual registration for each meeting to keep the Zoom bombers and all those people out. So my apologies for that. It's not any fun setting them up either, but it is the world, unfortunately, that we live in. That we were actually Zoom bombed on one of our meetings. It was not, let's just say some people could have been triggered by what was on that screen. And the last thing I really want to mention, other than, subscribe to the news from the Printiverse if you haven't, is in 2018, I think it was, we partnered with was 18 or 19, Kelly? No, I think
18.
18. We partnered
18.
with the Printing Industries of America on the Women's Print Mentoring Network. And Kelly really spearheads that. So I'm going to turn it over to Kelly to just tell you a bit about this, and then we're going to go right to Pat.
Well, as Deb said, this is a collaboration between Girls Who Print and the Printing Industries of America. And this is a fantastic place to either sign up to be a mentor to someone in the industry who is looking for some guidance, or to actually get a mentor. So there's no requirements as far as age or career or anything like that. Even if you're deep into your career and you're looking for help with a certain issue, you can certainly sign up and ask to be guided. And they are trying to do their best to keep everybody matched up. They end up having more people on the I need a mentor side than they do on the I can be a mentor side. I think I currently have about 3 mentees that I've hooked up with through this group, and it's extremely rewarding. Those of you who've been a mentor before, either officially or unofficially, know that. But I encourage you to go to the site, check it out, register, and say, what kinds of issues you'd be willing to work on. So they can be career-based or they can be even issue-based. But we'd love to have more participation on there. So.
And you could easily get to it from girlswhoprint.net. It's right on the homepage. So thank you so much, Kelly. And if anyone has questions about the program or has submitted something but hasn't heard back, Kelly's definitely your go-to. So just connect with her on that. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. And I do appreciate that you gave me that time to talk to you about Girls Who Print for a moment. And Patricia, I believe you have screen controls at any point that you'd like to take them over.
Okie dokie. You want to talk first and then we'll throw a slide up?
Yes, absolutely. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my view to
microphone.
I'm going to switch my microphone. Thank you.
Right. Yep. You'll be a little less echoey that way.
How's that, everybody?
That is much nicer. Thank you.
Lovely. Okay, well, got my podcasting mic. Okay, so if everybody could mute themselves who's not presenting. And then what I did is, I'm sure we're all experts now. I went up and I changed from gallery view to speaker view so I could actually see Pat on the screen. But that's up to you how you want to manage your own Zoom meeting. So, thank you so much. Welcome everybody to Fierce Fabulous Fridays. This is the launch of our event, and there was no better person to bring on than Pat McGrew. She is the first winner of the Girls Who Print Girly Award. I forget what year it was, 2012, 2013, something.
I think 12. I think 12.
Somewhere along those lines. The award is given to a woman who gives back to the industry through education, through mentorship, through leadership. And there is no better example than Patricia McGrew. She actually, for some reason, I don't know why, when I first came along, she was like, "You're interesting. You seem like you want to do different things." And I do too, and we're going to somehow navigate this together. And she picked me, put me in her pocket, and until I was able to stand on my own 2 feet, opened up all the doors for me, was immensely influential in my life and in my career. And I always get teary when I talk about it, Pat McGrew.
I taught you inkjet.
You taught me inkjet and workflow. You taught me everything. So, so Pat, before we get into our conversation, maybe you could let everybody know a bit about you and some of the roles you've had in the industry.
It all began on a 60,000 watt radio station in Santa Clara, California. I'm sorry, that's a bad joke for those of you who are as old as I am and remember a show called WKRP. At the end of the day, or Mary Tyler Moore, they used it on both. So here's the truth. I'm 63 years old. I did my first printing when I was 13. That makes me a long timer in the industry. I had a series of strange occurrences in my life that led me here. So I sort of started in a print shop that had been in the business since the 1700s. I hadn't been in the business since the 1700s. That would be Frank Romano. But I was in a building that was built for printing, and printed starting in the 1700s. And there I learned all those weird fine arts, you know, spotting ruby liths, making photomechanical transfers. I learned typesetting, first on hot lead and then on photocomp. And that was all while I was in junior high and high school. And I leveraged that because when I got to college and needed to make money, I was a typesetter, and you made a lot more money as a typesetter than you did flipping hamburgers. Over the years, I was really trained as a journalist, so I'm a writer by trade. Everything else I do is sort of extra. And over the years, I've built documentation programs for hardware and software. I've done training on hardware and software, document composition systems. I've helped build AI engines for document production systems. For 10 years, I owned a software company that did data stream transforms. And when I sold that, I get bored easily. I had to do something. So I ended up in the market research industry, and then wiggled my way into document strategy at the global level, and then building the first programs for selling high-speed full-color inkjet to an industry that really didn't want it at the time, which is how Transpromo got created, and Transpromo is kind of my fault. We needed a reason to get people to buy high-speed color inkjet printers, and Transpromo got invented to do that. And then I did largely that I was the man-machine interface when I was at Kodak in the inkjet group, and then again at HP, I was the man-machine interface. I sat between engineers installing printers and people who actually had to make money with them. And in the end, that gig ended with Drupa 2016. I moved back into market research, and on February 13th, I was told my services were no longer needed in that company, and I reinvented myself again. And as Deb said, every one of these steps has been a little reinvention. Everything you have ever learned can serve you in your next role. And then you pick up a few more skills, and then things change and you move on and you use them again. So here we are having fun.
Here we are having fun. And, you know, it's a perfect segue into the conversation that I want to have with you, because coming out of Corona, I truly believe, and it's my talk track if anyone's been paying attention, that this is actually the moment for reinvention for everybody, myself included. I don't think that I am, you know, without moment to evolve at this point as well. Even though I do work online, you would think I have it easy, but I really don't.
No.
And in that, there is looking at the current services that print shops offer, looking at the current applications that they provide or market on or think that they excel at, and looking at the current group of customers everyone has, and really at this point in time assessing, is all of that worth bringing back? Does any of it have to be modified in any way? And if so, where does the workflow efficiency come into that? And that's the conversation that we're going to have with Pat today. So I'm not sure if you want to address any of that before you go into your presentation, but I'm going to turn it over to you now.
So the first thing, Deb, I think that's worth addressing is the current state of our industry, right? So we're all working somehow with people who print. Either it's we are a printer and we're involved directly in the printing industry, or our clients are printers, or hardware and software vendors who serve them. And for absolutely everybody in the supply chain, no matter where you are, whether you're the designer or you're um, the the printer or you're the person in charge of selling print or onboarding print, things are going to change for all of us. And I think that this is a really good time for all of us to take a couple of steps back and start to figure out what we really need to be thinking about and how we should be using our time right now in order to ensure that when the other side happens, and it's not going to be a light switch, it's going to be a slow roll, right? Some of us are going to be able to open our doors before others. It's not really clear to me that just because you open the door, that means you're going to have business. I've spoken to printers over the last few weeks, some of whom have more work than they know what to do with because they have the right mix of products that are right now really heavily called for, but they don't know how sustainable that is once everybody has their stand 6 foot apart stickers, right? And has all their bits and pieces and their signage all up. I've talked to printers who've lost 90% of their business in the last 4 to 6 weeks, who are really not quite sure what the other side looks like. And the same is true of hardware vendors and software vendors. So that's the basis for what I wanted to share today. And what I'm really hoping you're going to do is ask me some questions. Be happy, you know, tell me some lies if that works for you. And Deb and Kelly, as you see questions that are relevant pop up, could you just sort of wing them in, because when I share, I lose the chat box and I can't really see it. So what you're seeing on the screen right now is my new PowerPoint presentation opening slide. When you discover that you are independent again, and I'm not saying that's bad. I'm actually, I've been sort of working back to being independent again for a while. You have to start thinking about all that collateral stuff. If you are an independent person and you don't have a deck template of some kind, whether you use Prezi or you use the Adobe tools or whatever your tools are, make sure that you're branding yourself. Make sure that you have a story to tell, and make sure that you can reflect that story. So this is my new opening slide, and I want to start here. I want to start with what's next. You can be part of it, or you can get trampled by it. And Deb and I have this conversation all the time about what is it going to take to be ready for whatever is next, because it's not going to be whatever we're doing right now. It's gonna have to be different. It just is. There's no two ways about it. So the question is, what are you going to do? So no matter where you're sitting in the world, when we get done today, I want you to sit back and I want you to make a list of 5 things that you're doing right now that you need to think about in terms of long-term strategy. I want you to think about who you talk to on a regular basis, what clients you serve. I want you to think about how you sell yourself, and it doesn't matter what your job is. It doesn't matter if you're Deborah and Print Media Center, or you're Kelly and you're selling how to be successful in sales and business. Every one of us is going to have to change things a little bit. I've had to change my talk track even just since February 13th, because frankly, the customers that I talk to all the time have just been hit with a gut punch. They're not sure. Imagine if you were selling multi-million-dollar printing equipment and this happens and you're trying to, I mean, who's going to buy a $3 million press this week? I'm thinking most people are going to be rethinking that one, right? Even if they were right on the edge of, heck, even if they already signed the paperwork, they might be coming back to you and saying, maybe not right now. Imagine all the people who are out selling printing to restaurants, right? What's not open a lot right now, right? Restaurants. And you might say, oh, well, you can print to-go menus and you can print this and you can print that. Our family owns 3 restaurants, all closed since March 16th. Let me tell you, I have no money. We've had nothing's come in. We got to rethink entirely how we're going to come back. And what we print is going to be different than what we printed before. So every business, no matter, you know, if you're the local mobile phone store, if you're the local tattoo parlor, right? All the cannabis stores have to also rethink. Somebody asked me yesterday, hey, I've got a client who's got golf courses, and they want to know if we think that people will actually pick up print at the golf course. Will they be afraid to touch anything? Like, they'll come and they'll sign up and they'll go hit their golf with their personal golf clubs and their personal golf balls. But would they pick up a flyer? Would they pick up a menu? Will they pick up anything? And it's not just a golf course question. It's a question for every business. If we've been used to putting point of sale stuff, you know, are we going to pick that stuff up? And I don't know the answer to that. And I think it's going to be different for different kinds of businesses in different localities. And people are going to look to us in the printing industry to be their experts. So change is coming. Let's get ready for it. But let's be smart about how we get ready for it. Changing just to change for any of us is not a solution. And sadly, when we look back at the literature, so I'm a big reader of McKinsey and Digital McKinsey and Harvard Business Review, ProSci, anything I can find. Project Management Institute does amazing pieces. I read everything I can get. I read Wired Magazine and forums at Bloomberg. I'm looking for what our business is thinking, how our business is thinking. All right. Well, a lot of them have reached out and have asked for some help in getting through change. And over the last couple of years, I've done a lot of workshops around change for companies. And in doing the research for those workshops, I learned a really interesting thing. No one has a good workflow. And the interesting thing is they don't have good production print workflows. They don't have good business workflows. Business owners seem to have lost the connection with how work comes in the door and how it gets sold and how much they're making on it. So all of these business and production workflows are kind of broken. And so when we start talking about, okay, what are we going to do to change? How are we going to make it better? Here's a really sad fact. 41% of companies that try to start a change project, we're going to redo our workflow. We're going to redo how we do web to print. We're going to bring in web to print. We're going to change how we onboard jobs. We're going to retrain our salespeople. We're going to cross-train all of the folks who are out on the production floor. 41% of those projects are successful, which means 59% of them are not, right? And they're not because people start projects usually in reaction to something bad happening, right? Oops, we didn't get a job out the door to the requirement of the contract. Oops, we delivered the wrong work to a customer. Oops, oh, it's the end of the year and we just realized we forgot to bill 20 of our customers for work. And don't laugh, a customer said that to me. I had a customer say to me that their business workflow was so broken that they didn't actually know how much money they made in a given year until February of the following year. How do you live like that? So it's a business workflow, it's a production workflow. And so if you're going to think about how you're going to change the business that you're involved in, the business of yourself, think top down. Right? The most successful change engagements of any kind, the most successful workflow improvement projects, business and production, start with executive buy-in. And if you're the executive, that means you have to buy in. It means you have to really jump in with both feet. So if Deb's going to change how she brings Print Media Center into the post-COVID-19 environment, Deb's got to be, as the leader, the person who buys in. It can't be I think I might change this, I might change that, I might ask this person to do their job a little differently. It's got to be full on, right? It's got to be embraced and it's got to be passionate. And it's got to involve everybody, right? So in my world, I work with a lot of different companies, all of whom have a lot of employees. And if I'm going to do any kind of project with any of them, I need to know that everybody who's in my stakeholder chain has bought into whatever it is we're trying to do. Because the projects that fail, that leave customers unhappy, and it's whether it's a print project, for me, a print sample project, a workflow assessment, the only time anybody's ever unhappy is when the whole constituency didn't really buy in. And there are naysayers in there. And there are people who see themselves as smarter as everybody else in the room, who simply do not want to play ball with whatever change is coming. Whether it's the workflow people who are convinced that how they're doing workflow is perfect, there is no problem whatsoever. And yes, we know that you paid $125,000 for some new workflow software, but we don't like it, so we refuse to use it, so we're actually running on spreadsheets. True story. Unfortunately, it's a true story in a lot of different places that I've been in. So all of these things are things you need to think about. So think about your personal workflow. What are you doing every day to carry yourself forward? Whether you're working for somebody or you're working for yourself, you need a personal workflow as much as you need a business workflow. And if you're in a print shop, you need a production workflow, right? What we want to do is remember that the next 6 months are going to be weird, not normal. 6 months after that, probably going to be pretty weird too. So we need to be thinking ahead. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to start to think about how you assess your personal workflow, the business workflow you live in, and the print production workflow that you're involved with. Whether it's the one in your printing company, or it's one of your client companies, or it's one that you buy from. Think about all these things. And I want you to think about it the way I do assessments, right? When I walk into a company to do a business flow assessment or a workflow assessment, there's fundamentally no difference, right? Because I need to understand everything. I need to know where you are today and where you want to be. And in these times right now, what that also means is I need to understand what you think you can really do in the run-up to getting back to whatever normal looks like out in 2021, right? And as Deb mentioned in the preamble, this might mean firing some of your customers. It might mean rethinking some of your team members, sad but true. It might mean taking a dispassionate look at all of your capabilities to figure out which ones you're not actually using and building net new products that are going to help carry you through the dark times, right? Or at least the gray times, because it's going to be different. So what I threw up on the screen, what I threw up in this deck here is a grid that I use frequently to look at. If you've ever done an MBA course, you probably know people, processes, and technologies. It's kind of the standard talk track. And I added communication to the grid because it's the biggest point of failure in most companies. And it's the biggest point of failure in most workflows of all types. And often, even in our personal workflows, our communication style isn't a match for the people that we're trying to talk to. And if we're going forward, we're going to need to assess each one of these boxes. So think about the next 2 or 3 days of your life. Think about all the people you engage with. How many of them are enthusiastic? How many of them are sure we're all going to die? How many of them are snuggled under the blanket in bed and haven't come out since they got the stay-at-home, work-from-home order? How many of them are on every Zoom call known to mankind trying to learn, right? Embrace the learners and see if you can coax the other folks out of bed. It's going to be important. Start to think about who the unofficial leaders are in your business and in your life. It's your mentors, right? If you've got a mentor, they're sort of an official leader, but they're kind of an unofficial leader too. Think about how to engage with them. But also think about all the people that you work with. Who are the people you look up to? Who does everybody else you work with look up to? Make sure that whatever the plan is for next, those people, whether they have a title or not, are engaged. Because it might be the press operator, right? It might be the laminator operator. It might be the guy in shipping or the gal who's in accounting that everybody goes to with all their personal problems and is the center point of information for everybody. If you don't get that person on board with whatever the change is going to look like, nothing's ever going to work. It's sad, but it's true. This is a great time to take a couple of steps back and look at your workflows and walk them. If you're in the printing industry and you work with a print shop or in a print shop, have you ever walked a job from the point where the salesperson sold it all the way through to the point where it got delivered? You might not have. This is a great time to do it. So let's think about that next thing, right? From a workflow perspective, from a recovery perspective, and from a knowing your resources perspective. No matter where you are, whether you're working from home, you're working from an office, you're working from your car, do you have a plan? Do you have a disaster recovery plan? Do you have a post-COVID-19 plan? You might not. Vast majority of companies I've walked into in the last 2, 3, 4, 10 years have binders that are sitting in their print shop or in their office labeled standard operating procedure. Might have a little subtitle, disaster plan. When you ask if they've done the disaster plan drills, few will say yeah, most say no. So here's the fun thing. If you've got one of these binders, go take it off the shelf and open it to the first page and see if any of the people who are listed as primary contacts still work for the company. Because the last 5 times I did this, not a single person was still employed by the company. And they were the go-to people. In fact, all of the critical jobs listed in the SOP, those customers weren't even customers anymore. So this is a good time to start thinking about all those people who are your customers and all of these people who are your critical contacts and how it is you're going to keep on working. Because if your plant has never stopped working, you may not have a plan. It's really common to see that organizations don't. But if you are currently in a downturn, this is the time, or even if you're going gangbusters, this is the time to start taking a look at all the things that you should know about your business. If you're working from home, if you are a designer, or if you are working in sales, or if you are a consultant, many of us on the call are consultants in the industry, this is a place where we can help our customers. This is a great reason to reach out to a customer who may not want to buy print if you're a print broker, or might not think that they don't want to buy services from you right now, but this is something you could really help them with, right? This is a service. Let me come in and help you understand what you have right now so that when it's time to get to next, when it's time to sell the next thing, you're ready. Let me come in and help you identify the customers maybe you should fire because you're not making any money off them. Let me help you identify the difficulties in the sales talk track that might be in use by some of your sales team members. Very often I find it, and I suspect that a lot of you who do sales consulting find this too, salespeople get entrenched in a talk track, and when new equipment comes in, new capabilities come in, new partnerships are formed, it never makes it into that sales talk track. And so you might have salespeople who are selling stuff you did 20 years ago, not the stuff you can do today. This is a great time to let them know what you can really do right? This is one of those things that really gets lost. So what do you do to plan? Because this is not going to, where we are right now, it's not going to last forever. Think about what you're really selling. What are your products? What are your services? And whether you're a printer or a consultant or a designer or a software person, doesn't matter who you are, this is a conversation you should be having either with yourself if you're an independent or with your team of partners, right? This is a conversation Deb and I think, have probably weekly at times. What does next look like? What's the next product that Print Media Center might offer? What's the next product that McGrew Group might offer? What's the next product that one of the partners we work with might offer, right? What's next? What are the things that maybe we should stop offering? Because there are times when it's time for that turnover, and this is one of those times, because people are going to buy different. And they're going to want a bargain to get started. If you want to get their attention, you're going to have to be very sensitive to costs. A company that I do business with told me yesterday that their marketing budget, which had already been impacted by Drupa spend, right? Even though Drupa is not happening, a lot of spend actually happened last year and at the beginning of the year, was taken down to zero for the rest of the year. Right? Deborah.
Yes, two questions, one from me and one from Marilyn Truckle. I will actually ask mine first because it leads into hers.
Okay.
Obviously, at some point, you know, in the United States at least, there's proposed rollout in phases, which means that certain business will come back and then there'll be a sort of a cadence for that. What is your advice for how long printers should wait for their customers to at least get their sea legs before they go and try to figure out what, I refuse to use the phrase new normal because it's not normal. There's nothing normal about it. So when they reassess what their strategy for moving forward is going to be, and then Marilyn's question tacked into that is, for the printers that are actually working right now, what is the right mix of products for them?
Okay, so questions, an excellent pairing of questions as well. So let's start with, when do you go market or try to sell to your existing customers? And I'm going to tell you that I think that you should have never stopped. I think that you should be touching base with all of your customers all of the time, no matter what, because it's not to, hey, I have a deal on, you know, floor distancing stuff. That's not really the conversation. The conversation is, how can I help you? What can I do for you? Is there something that you need? Do you need a reference to a partner who might be able to take some work? Are you open to doing work for someone else who might be overloaded somewhere? These are fabulous conversations to be having. But at the same time, use a little bit of this time to be setting up your strategy, to be looking at the products you can sell, the products that you want to sell, looking at your margins, looking at your capabilities, and trying to figure out how to add a new mix of high-value products into the things that you're currently offering. If you have been living and dying by selling direct mail printing for pennies, this is a great time to rethink it, because the thing that all the numbers are showing us for the last 4 or 5 weeks is that direct mail is coming back. It's coming back in short runs, variable personalization, some mass customization, but you can charge more for it because these runs are lower, are shorter run. A lot of the work that used to be on offset presses, for all of offset people, put your fingers in your ears, a lot of that work is moving to digital devices. Because the need for multi-million runs, warehousing things, warehousing shelves, nobody's got the appetite for that right now. One company I talked to yesterday told me that one of their customers had to dump half a warehouse full of pre-printed shelves because they spotlighted products that they're no longer going to be selling. So think about the investment that was made there. So yeah, the printer got paid, but the customer now lost all that budget, right? So for them to do anything, it's going to be short run, it's going to be digital. So I think that you want to be doing your strategy right now and start really understanding what you can sell, whether it's printed product or it's solution product, whatever it is, really get your arms around it. And you want to be talking to your customers every opportunity that you can. Set up a regular touch point with them, just as if you were trying to sell them something net new every day. This is no time to let them just sit and stew, honestly. They'll tell you if they don't have time. They'll tell you if they're not interested, but you make the reach out. Now, in terms of what products you should be building, well, it kind of depends on what kind of printer you are, right? If you have wide format capability, if you have signage capability, if you have pressure sensitive capabilities, printing on pressure sensitive labels and larger stock capabilities, you should have immediately sat down, worked with a designer, gotten some of those safe distancing, floor things, clings, signage into your catalog. Whether it's an online catalog or one that you equip your salespeople with, or you send it out via email, you should have immediately gotten those things pulled together. And if you are one of those people who does not have wide format devices, but you have, one of the great B1 or B2 toner devices, you have even a letter-based, a narrow format toner device, or you have one of the many inkjet devices that are in the market, you're not out of business. Even if you've never created a sign before in your life, you can, right? The only requirement for a sign is some text and a substrate. The sign does not care what the marking technology is. Now, can everybody do a window cling? Nope, probably not. But can everybody do something on paper that can get posted in a window or posted on a wall? Absolutely yes, right? An awful lot of the devices have the capability to print on cardstock, 9-point cardstock, which can give you a wide range of options for offering things like personalized to-go boxes, right? Not only for food, right? Here in Colorado, we're kind of shut down until at least the middle of May right now. But one of the things they are doing is allowing curbside pickup for retail, for the smaller retailers that want to open. And one of the challenges for them is, they've been used to using plastic bags. Nobody wants to touch plastic bags. So a couple of enterprising folks here in Colorado have started offering paper bags that are customized and folding carton boxes, all done on, and they've never done them before. This is all brand new stuff for them. They're learning about gluing and folding and cutting, but they found partners that are helping them with that. So they're printing out the pieces and they're sending them to a partner to get finished off and then delivering. But they're doing it in runs at 200, right? But it's a new business for them. So every one of you who works with customers who have presses, sometimes you have to remind them how capable those presses are. Because most of the presses that are out there today have a lot more capability than what the customers are using. I can't hear you, Deborah.
I don't believe there's any manufacturers on this call. I believe everyone's a printer, so they have access to the technology in their print shops.
And so everybody go look and see what's there. And if somebody on the print shop floor tells you that press can't do that, call the vendor and make sure. Because one of the things, again, my job for a couple of decades was to sit between the engineers and what the machine could really do and what could be sold off of the machine. And I can remember having very loud, passionate conversations with engineers about how much saturation we could put on a page, what kinds of substrates we could put through a machine. This is not a bad time to be experimenting a little bit. Somebody asked me the other day, you know, we don't have a lot of business right now. I guess we'll just shut the press down and mothball it until we're ready to start up again. And I said, wait a minute, do you have any substrate in your room, you know, back in your warehouse? Well, yeah, we got, you know, pallets and rolls and this. You should be practicing. And you should be practicing by building your own collateral, right? So if your company does not have branded collateral that shows everything you can do with your name on it and contact details on it, well, heck, get out into that print shop and get it going, right? This is the time to do it. Show what you can do so that when everyone is ready to buy, or when they need to buy and it's an emergency and they need it fast turnaround, short run, your team already knows how to make a folding carton box, or how to make a gift bag, or how to print the signs and the labels on whatever devices are sitting there, right? Most important. Do we have any other questions?
There aren't any in the chat box, but if anyone has any, you want to turn on your microphone and ask, more than welcome, before we proceed, or we're proceeding.
I'm just going to, throw something out there. Obviously, the big thing is you need to let everybody know what you can do. Whereas, you know, a lot of them, you know, they've never really marketed themselves. They've got their little customer base, and the customers that are going to be back soon, not in this country yet, but, you know, they need to let those clients know. And I think that's the big thing about, they almost need to be marketing themselves now. Because these are the offerings, these are things we can offer, and I think that's a huge challenge at the moment with printers, because it's like, how do I'm going to start partnering and you know, doing things with other companies, but how do I let the market know? So, you know, it's going.
Jean,
really,
you're absolutely right, and so for those of you who don't know, Jean is based in South Africa. I know her from her time in Europe. We've had the pleasure of working together, and Jean's a very smart person when she says they need to be marketing themselves. We kind of refer to it as the cobbler's children syndrome, right? Printers are great at telling you what you need to do and what you need to print, but they're terrible about doing it for themselves. And very often it's because they don't know, right? Sales and marketing are not the same thing. I think most of us would agree with that, right? The sales is the execution. Marketing is building the demand, right? And an awful lot of printers have been blessed with not needing to build the demand, right? Or they've relied on their salespeople to build the demand. Today, I think it's absolutely right. What Jean is saying is absolutely right. I mean, they need help with marketing. So look, whoever you are, wherever you are in the supply chain, put a little marketing hat on, because this is the time for every printing company to be taking a very hard look at how they look from the outside in, right? What I used to do when I was trying to figure out if something made sense is I used to ask my ex-husband to take a look at things. So why my ex-husband? Well, he's got nothing to do with the printing industry. Not a thing. Wouldn't know a printer if he tripped over it. Was trained as an archaeologist. There you go, right? Totally relevant skills. He's an artist, right? So he's got a good art eye. But if he couldn't tell what I was trying to say in some piece that I showed him, I failed. Because one of the assumptions that we all make is that people who buy print know what they're buying. And Deborah, you know that that's not true, right? An awful lot of people don't understand. You can say they don't need to understand the technologies and they don't need to understand the finishing options, but honestly, they do. We just have to be very subtle in how we train them. We need to market to them.
Okay, I just want to clarify. It's not that they shouldn't care. It's that they don't need to know how the technology works.
They don't need to know what the picoliter density of the ink dropping from the inkjet head is.
They need
but
to
they
know
should understand the difference between inkjet and toner and offset. I mean, I think
absolutely 100%.
Yeah.
They need to know that those things exist, but they do not need to know this goes 3B on 45 meters. That's where salespeople need to shut up.
And the frequency of read on this device is this many megahertz. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Shelley, did you have a question? I see that you unmuted yourself there.
Yes, no, I was just going to say to that, I'm a printer, and even the clients you already have, they get going on with their day-to-day stuff, and even though you're doing a lot of work with them, they do forget what you can do, and they're like, oh, you do that? I'm like, so you're constantly also having to remind them as well of the things that you're capable of doing. I find that happens a lot with clients. We just had a fire, and we have all brand new equipment, so we're like going back out there and having to tell everybody from scratch what we can do now versus, you know, because it's all new equipment, new technology.
Well, congratulations on getting back up and running.
Yeah, and then this happened. So.
Trust me, I really understand. Yeah, I did. We just bought one of our restaurants. Literally, we bought it last April. We're not breaking even, and then this happened, and we went, well, okay. You know.
Yeah.
Kelly, I think has a question. I believe Fatima has a question too. Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to reinforce something that Pat said, and I think it bears repeating that you said, reach out to the equipment manufacturers and challenge. It's almost like challenging them to say, what's the craziest thing this machine can do? But I also think you need to reach out to your paper vendors and people like that too, because they have super cool substrates that you forgot about or that you didn't get the sample books.
Right?
Yep.
The samples are there too. And if you don't mind a quick plug, there is this thing called Print Sample TV. And so Trish Witkowski does the amazing full factory videos. Go spend a day looking at all of them, all 500 of them. But I do Print Sample TV over on inkish.tv, and the whole goal here was to do just look at this really cool piece of print. Go look at those, get your own ideas, right? Mm-hmm. And go try and imitate them and create your own print samples.
Yep.
Great idea.
Fatima, did you have a question?
Yes. So, hello. Great topic today. I have a question about the continuous improvement processes. When you were talking about going back to the beginning with sales and, and going through your manufacturing processes, do you follow any Six Sigma or any sort of methodology to put in the processes for a printing company?
So I like Six Sigma. I've been trained in Six Sigma. I find that it almost gets in the way of most printing companies because very few printing companies are set up to acquire the data you need to do true Six Sigma in the environment. If you're Quad, if you're R.R. Donnelly, if you're one of the big guys, if you're Williams Lee, those guys can certainly, and many of them have done Six Sigma. For the most part, my methodology when I do my assessments is I've borrowed pieces from Bain, pieces from McKinsey, and pieces from a bunch of the Harvard Business Review research, and I've tried to bucket a whole set. I have 100 processes that I look at within the printing company, and I try to evaluate them in terms of 5 basic criteria so that I end up with sort of a matrix of where companies are really hitting it out of the park and where they're really costing themselves money because they're not using best practices to get jobs on board or to get their billing correct or to make sure that accounting knows, that a job is actually shipped amazing number of companies don't have change management processes, and so they fail to bill for a lot of change that they should be billing for. So to answer your question most accurately, me personally, I'm not using Six Sigma. I'm informed by Six Sigma. I think for companies that have that level of understanding of their data, who actually know everything there is to know about every job that's coming through and can collect machine data to augment that data as well. It's a great thing to do. But for a mid-sized company or a small-sized company or a company that has never been through a rigorous process, it's not the place I'd recommend starting because it can take a company years to achieve true Six Sigma, and I'm not sure that the value you get for it is reflected in the margins you can charge and the profit that you make.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I'm going through all those processes right now. Everything you've mentioned, from understanding what they're trying to do with sales to reinventing the software, reinventing the estimating, with e-pays, all of that. So it's
Oh,
interesting.
if you're doing pay, so if you're an EFI customer,
Yes.
whatever you do, hold on to the people at EFI. Make sure you know their home phone numbers, the names of their kids, where they live, maybe a Google map to their house. One, they are the most helpful folks on earth. My friends at EFI, a lot of our ex-Kodak friends are at EFI now. I have a lot of friends at EFI. If you ever get stuck, just ping me and I'll find a reference for you. But EFI as a system, when you have it all installed and it's all plugged in, it's brilliant, because it helps you get a really great global view of your solution. But getting it installed is a lot of work, because they expect you to know a lot of stuff, and it's a lot of stuff you may not know. So you have my best wishes and prayers, and I'll do a prayer wheel or something for you, because you're going to need it.
Thank you.
But it'll be great when it's there.
Pat, do you have any other slides?
I only had one more, and it's sort of the obvious one. Hi, I can help. It seems sort of obvious, doesn't it? This isn't what I'm doing now, and so look, for all the girls who print, if you want to drop me a note and ask a question, the door's always open, the email's always open. I'm always happy to answer a question for the folks in this group. Certainly I'm out there selling services, so if you know anybody who needs them, I'd be delighted to. But if we leave with nothing else today, the most important thing is you got to change. Wherever you are right now, things are going to change. Assess yourself, assess your business, assess your workflows, and start to get ready while we have a little bit of a breather. And if you need help, I'm here.
Thank you so much, Pat McGrew. Thanks for everyone who joined us. I did push record. It is a modern miracle. So we'll have a recording of this to share. And even though Fierce Fabulous Fridays is for girls who print only, of course, not sharing of information is open source after this opportunity. I would like to just remind everybody that girlswhoprint.net has the schedule of all the Fierce Fabulous Fridays. And next week, by popular demand, we are going to be talking about recruitment in recovery, whether you're looking for a job or looking for new employees, or don't realize that you're going to need new employees with different sets of skills when this all comes up. And then following that is a conversation with Christine Erna about direct mail. Direct mail is so important. It is going to be
the growth engine.
It is going to be the lifeline of communication, of education. It is going to be the first line of defense. Get something in somebody's hand, if they're willing to touch it, to your point, Patricia, before. And then there's, I'm not going to go through each one, but there's, just go to girlswhoprint.net. It says Fabulous Fridays, and please register. Please share with the other women in the industry. I don't want to sound all beggy about this, but honestly, like you guys have to start showing up for this stuff, or there's kind of no point in us having it. And that means that Kelly and I and people like Pat and the past Girly Award winners cannot be the only people banging this drum to the girls who print and everything that we do here. So there's information on the site. Share it through your channels. I very respectfully tell the guys, sorry, this is only for the women, but these people, they're in your own company, they're sitting next to you. Tell somebody something. Worst case scenario, watch over their shoulder. I mean, I'm sure that's happening right now, and that's totally fine. But Girls Who Print is about empowerment, and we can't just walk around and go, you're empowered, you're empowered, you're empowered, like Oprah gives out cars. You actually have to actively participate in the process. So please help us help you. We can't get people like Pat McGrew to come talk to this group unless there's a group to talk to. So that's my last kind of pitch.
Deborah, if anybody wants this deck, it wasn't big, it wasn't massive, but might be useful in trying to convince people on your side of the fence. I just put my email address. I actually am putting 2 in there because for people on enterprise servers, for some reason my McGrew group address sometimes bounces. But if you drop me a note, I'm happy to shoot it back to you and share it. The whole thing is education. So if it's useful, I'm happy to send it.
And of course, you could connect with Pat McGrew directly on LinkedIn.
Oh yeah.
Which is the easiest way to get her information. And when I do close the meeting down, that chat box will disappear. So just contact me or Kelly if you can't get in touch with Pat. But Pat is very easy to get in touch with.
Oh, yeah.
It's literally at Pat McGrew on anything you can.
Pretty much.
So we're past the hour. Basically everybody stayed. So thank you all so much. Thanks to Girls Who Print girl number 2, Kelly Malazzi, who's been manning the chat room and letting people in. And of course to Pat McGrew, thank you so much for sharing your time, your thought leadership, and your advice to everybody. It's been invaluable.
My pleasure. Hope to hear from many of you.
Have a great day, everybody. Stay home, stay safe, and stay healthy.
Thank you all. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.